Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we are reviewing the fabled Honda Grom. This video isn't sponsored by a dealership. No one provided this bike to me except for myself. This is my personal 2022 Honda Grom SP. If you're new here, we mostly do motorcycle reviews. We'll have some sit-down commentary content coming up in the future. If you want to catch some of that, make sure you like this video and you subscribe to the channel for more. We'll be hitting on a few different key elements whenever we talk about the Honda Grom today, and by the end of it, I'm going to be telling you whether or not this motorcycle right here is a good buy, or if instead you should be saying goodbye. To kick things off, we'll cover some specs, we'll get into an exhaust clip so you can hear what this engine sounds like, I'll get on the roadways and take you for a test ride, and at the very end, we'll wrap it up with our final verdict. Before we talk specs, let's do a little backstory on the Honda Grom. I have personally owned all 3 generations of Grom that have existed. There was the OG Grom that debuted back in 2014. By 2017, nothing new really happened with the Honda Grom, except it got some new bodywork, and this is commonly referred to as the SF generation. And then we move on to the 3rd generation Grom, which is what I have here in front of me. And now there's the 4th generation Honda Grom, which is the 2025 model year for here in the US. And much like the changes that occurred on the 1st generation to the 2nd generation being just bodywork, the 3rd to the 4th generation got the same treatment. What is it though about the Honda Grom that people seem to be so drawn to? Sure, the Honda Grom is small, but it is a mighty mini moto. And Honda's mini moto lineup is designed to be very versatile, whether it be urban commuting, stunting, or just straight up hooligan fun. What truly sets the Grom apart is what I call the X factor, and that's the fact that it's kind of a novelty machine. But it's very good at exceeding expectations and putting a smile on your face every time you throw a leg over one. The size, the lightweight nature, the low approachable seat height, the tiny wheels, all of these variables add up to give us a very charismatic and charming mighty mini moto. So if it's not the novelty factor, then maybe it's just the way that it makes you feel every time you ride one. It's a motorcycle that can't take itself too seriously because, well, it's a mini motorcycle. And with the price tag, you're not going to expect much out of the suspension, brakes, or the engine. So whenever you get on one, you can't take it too seriously, which means that you can't really take yourself too seriously. And that plays a huge role in what makes the Grom so attractive for so many. But that's mostly just surface level fluff. So now let's go a little bit deeper and let's talk about some specs. The specs on the Grom are not super complex, so we'll get through these pretty quick. These forks have remained mostly unchanged since the beginning set in 2014. These are 31mm inverted forks for a nice, sporty look. There's not a lick of adjustability in the front end. The rear shock is a standard monoshock with preload adjustability, and that is the only adjustability on the Honda Grom. The brake on the front of the machine is a 220mm disc with a dual piston caliper. In the rear, we find a 190mm disc and a single piston caliper. ABS is optional on the Honda Grom. The engine on the Honda Grom is 124 cc's in displacement, has a single overhead cam design with 2 valves on the cylinder head, puts out a whopping 9.7 horsepower, and a fun and feisty 7.7 pound-feet of torque. This redesigned engine for the Honda Grom in the 2022 and up model years for the US market also has a higher compression ratio than previous generations. It's now 10:1, and it used to be 9.3:1. This might not sound like a huge difference, but it contributes to a much snappier throttle responsiveness, making the engine feel more lively and playful. The motor is mated into Honda's redesigned for the 2022 and up model years in the US 5-speed gearbox. This is a vast improvement over the previous generation Honda Groms, which only came with a 4-speed. The gearbox alone was enough for me to want to sell my old generation Grom and roll with a new one because the added flexibility of another gear to play with. The wet weight on the Honda Grom comes in at 224 pounds. And that's about half the weight of yo mama. Oh! God damn it! And combining that very light wet weight of the motorcycle with its 30-inch very approachable seat height, we have a motorcycle that's super easy to mount for most average-sized individuals. And even for someone like me who's a little taller than the average person at 6'1" with a 32-inch inseam, I fit on the Grom surprisingly well. And thanks to the flat seat that Honda decided to roll with on this new generation, you have a ton of room to move back on the motorcycle and really make it fit a little bit better without having to do any hard mount modification. That said, there's a wide slew of seats, foot peg mounts, and handlebars that you can change out to make it motherfucker. All sorts of different things that you can combine and mix around to make it really fit how you want it to. Overall though, the seating position of the Honda Grom is nearly perfectly neutral. It provides such a balanced riding experience and really does give you the ability to ride all day long with minimal complaints. And now that we're through the portion that most of you would probably consider boring, we can get on to the more exciting stuff, like the exhaust clip. Have a listen to how this sounds. If you like the way it sounds, check out the links in the description below. I have a link where you can buy this exact exhaust system. But for now, let's have a listen. Now that you know what it sounds like, let's go see how it rides. Let's go for a test ride. See you there. So for the beginning of most test rides, I normally like to get acquainted with my motorcycle, but with this being my private, personally owned Honda Grom, we have no need for personal acquaintances because we already know each other pretty well. Again, if you're looking to pick one up and you've never been on one before, I strongly recommend that you come into a parking lot and just get yourself familiar. Real quick, just so we don't leave something out of this, let's do a 2 parking spot test. The goal, this white line, not that white line, but cut in before that one over there. Let's see how we do. Easy peasy. I could probably go full lock and even get within 1 maybe. I mean, that is pretty close to 1 parking spot right there. Here, let's try it. Nope. Tighten it up. Come on, baby. Oh, we're so close. Man, that's so tough. You gotta trust your bike, I guess. Look at that, 1 parking spot. Come on, come on. Yes! I'm counting that. Oh, that's so tight. Just so much fun on the Grom. And you can see I'm kind of bobbing and weaving on it. I mean, the flickability, the playful nature of the Grom is second to none. Oh, we got ourselves a jogger. Let's be a polite motorcyclist. Give him a little a ring. How you doing? Woo! Here we go. Since this is not a sponsored test ride, I'm taking an alternate route because I came from home today. So not at the big St. Charles Motorsports showroom, but I did want to show kind of some around town capability. And this isn't like the most dense city area that's near me, but I figured it would be a decent place to kind of show how it likes to be at lower speeds. Stop sign. Thank you, miss. And up to 40 miles per hour, the Grom gets there, you know, reasonably quick. You end up almost in your top gear by the time you get there, so you don't have a whole lot more to go after that. But this is part of the charm of the Grom, is using the whole bike. My other bike, which I would like to get a review out on that next, is my 2019 Yamaha MT-10. I don't have the need to leave first gear on that motorcycle until somewhere 70, 80 miles per hour maybe. So I've got 2 bikes that are absolute polar opposites in speed and power, but overall seating position on them feels remarkably similar. It's kind of weird. The MT-10 is slightly more aggressive with more rear set pegs, but the upright nature of both of them means that going back and forth from one to the other doesn't feel super extreme. Which, what a weird comparison to make, a Honda Grom to an MT-10, how bizarre. But here we are at 50 miles per hour, our 4th gear. We're even accelerating downhill very slightly. Crack it into 5th gear, that overdrive gear. Again, that's 2022 and up models here in the US. I think the European Union got the 5-speed new engine design in 2021. So if you're watching this from the European market or Asian market, hello! You guys get everything cool before us and a lot of stuff that we don't even get, which is super unfortunate. The bike doesn't have the serious nature of a bigger, heavier machine. So sometimes you almost find yourself kind of being carefree, which that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's generally a good idea to stop, take a look around, and make sure you're not getting, you know, too lost in the sauce. And that's with every motorcycle. With the Grom, once more though, it is just kind of easy to not take yourself serious and goof off and have fun while you're on it. Ooh, that was a big gust of wind off of that truck. So here we go, flat ground. I'm wide open, WOT baby. 56. There's 5th gear. 58. Yeah, so on flat ground, depending on the conditions, PSI in your tires, I'm sure air temperature maybe has something to do with how healthy the engine breathes. So on average, accounting for some leniency in either direction, you could say the top speed on the Honda Grom is going to be between 50 and 65 miles per hour. You will have those extreme outliers where some guys touch 70. I have been there myself, and I will try to bring you guys a clip of me doing that in this video, so make sure you keep watching if you want to see that. But for the most part, on flat ground, yeah, between 50 and 60 is really about where it'll cruise at, and you don't have any acceleration power once you're there. It's really just wide open throttle and hope for the best. But that's the neat thing about the Grom too, you know, you can just go wide open at any moment and it doesn't really catch you off guard. Oh, now would be a great time to talk about fuel economy. Honda on their website claims 166 miles per gallon on a 1.6 gallon tank. That's like 250 miles of range. Now, I'm sure there's probably an asterisk in there somewhere talking about how it's done under very controlled conditions and probably not at like maximum wide open throttle. My Grom is averaging about 117.8 miles per gallon. I have no flash on my ECU. I don't have any upgraded intake. All I'm running is that little exhaust pipe. Oh shoot, I meant to take that exit. That is okay. I think we can make this work. That's one of the beautiful things about the Grom. So small, so nimble, doesn't really cause you an inconvenience to stop, turn it around, and redirect yourself. This is going to be such a sketchy move. Maybe illegal if I was in the United States of America, but I'm in Mexico right now. We're gonna turn left down here and go down that road. And we're gonna do a completely uninterrupted top speed test. Okay. Here we go. See? I'm just out here gooning. Make sure no one's coming. We're good to go. What up, Amazon? Thanks for my Insta360 case that you sent me earlier. That's now on my Insta360. Super cool. All hail corporate America! There's a little side road there. I could probably just hop down that. You know what? Just for the sake of the video, I'm gonna hop down that. Just to show the Grom is super capable. Off-road ability. Here we go. Look at me go. I'm sure I'm not supposed to be over here, but who's gonna stop me in the Grom? Nice little gravel road, doing about 35 miles per hour. Suspension definitely not tuned for off-road, and it's very springy. Hiya, hiya, hiya. Oh, was that a jump? Yeehaw, cowboy. But yeah, we're just out here gooning. We're doing Grom stuff, man. The Grom inspires you to go out and explore and try new things, because that small footprint plays such a key element in the motorcycle being great. How far down this can I go? I'm like almost worried that someone might come to stop me, but no trouble yet, and I'm still going. All right, this looks like the end of the road. Or is it? Nope, let's continue. Hip stand up a little bit. Ooh. Hip, 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 hip. Wow, would you look at that? We made it all the way to this new building that they just put in, and I don't know what it is. But that was pretty cool, man. Look at that big parking lot. I can practice wheelies over there, which is what we're gonna do in a second. But first, we've got to try a 0 to 60 test. So that's what we're gonna do. Let's go down a little bit further and give ourselves some room to run, because if there's one thing the Grom is not, it's fast. The Grom is the furthest thing from fast. And I get so many people that buy a Grom, and the first like month they own it, what can I do for more speed? If you wanted to go faster, if you have a desire to go faster than 70 miles per hour, do not buy a Grom. Bottom line. Like, Groms are awesome, they're crazy fun, and that's about all they are. They're not fast. So don't buy one thinking that you're getting like a really fast naked bike, because you're not. Can you do modifications to make it faster? Yes, but then you start worrying about your dependability, reliability, and all of the other stuff that makes the Grom so great. If you want a Grom-esque motorcycle with a really nice engine in it, I recommend go buy a CB300 and do a Grom suspension and wheel swap. It's pretty well plug and play. I think there's a guy here out of Missouri that actually makes the kit. I will try to remember to put a link in the description for that. I believe it is Paul LaVista Racing. Anyway, 0 to 60 test, Honda Grom. Here we go. 3, 2, 1, go. Full tuck.
How long is this going to take?
Come on, baby. 60, there it is, there it is. Okay. Oh, man. You. I just be goofing.
I'm just goofing. New boot goofing.
Okay, so it looks like there was an employee in that parking lot there, so we are not going to do a wheelie test in their parking lot because, you know, business hours, I don't want to be a nuisance per se. So I'll just be a nuisance on the roadways where people travel in Mexico. Yeet! So the Grom does wheelie. It does take a little bit of convincing. I can kind of walk you through the convincing process. In first gear, usually anywhere between like 4 miles per hour to as much as probably 12 miles per hour. You just give it a clutch in, a good rev, and you dump that clutch and you cover that back brake. That is wildly important so you don't tip over the back of it. Something like this is how it should all look put together. Or thereabout. Let's see if we can ride one out for a little bit longer. But let's try second gear. So I find that second gear likes to be rev bomb from probably 15 miles per hour. Here we go. Oh, that was kind of nice. Let's do one more. Let's get one more good one, and let's put the 360 stick out a little bit further. We'll try to get a cool view on this one. Okay, here we go. One more time. Here we go. That's good enough for me. I'll take that. Good enough. Oh man. That just took so much energy. All right, get you back to the old position and let's continue our review. So if the capability to zip around town or go off-road or do some fun wheelies just isn't enough to sell you on the Grom, at that point, I don't know what else will. Maybe the Grom just isn't right for you. And if the Grom isn't for you, maybe you should check out some of my other videos. You can click this link right here for a playlist with more of my content where I review other motorcycles. You know, it's not something that you think about riding your own motorcycle, but the feel of the lever on the Grom, even though it's an axial pull on the lever and it's an axially mounted brake caliper, I feel like the Grom has pretty decent feel at the lever in terms of what happens as you squeeze harder and harder and apply more and more force to the brake lever. But what you do notice in grabbing that front brake lever is the front end dive because of the suspension being so soft. And I think I mentioned it at the beginning of the video, but I have owned 3 Groms in my lifetime. I had a 2014 OG Grom. It was red, and it was a Honda. Her name was Rhonda. Then I had a 2017 SF Grom that only was with me for maybe 6 months at most. And that was during the pandemic. These bikes were hard to come across on the 3rd gens, but I had found one at a reasonable price at a dealership in Nebraska. So I bought it and had it transported and brought to my doorstep. And I've been rolling with this thing for a little over a year and a half now. It's been really good to me. Never skips a beat. I've had zero issues with any sort of electrical, mechanical, anything like that. It's currently averaging 117.7 miles per gallon, but that's probably because I ride it like a lunatic, because it's my bike. But I love Groms dearly, and I almost think that everyone, if you're even thinking about riding one, you should just take that leap and just go ride one, see if you like it. If it's not for you, it's totally cool. You know, it's a strange community, it's a weird bike, and it's not for everybody. But I think it's for almost everybody. Okay, so if I was in the USA and not Mexico, there would be a legal displacement requirement for me to enter onto a major interstate highway. That minimum requirement is 249 cc's, which if you watch the beginning of the video, you know that the Grom is 124 cc's. But the reason that I'm going to venture onto the interstate is to show you guys how capable this bike is not at getting on the highway, while also showing you how high I can make this number right here read on said interstate. I've got a good feeling that we're going to touch 70 miles per hour, if not maybe go a little bit over. I don't feel a strong breeze from anywhere, and I know a downhill segment that's going to give me a nice advantage in trying to achieve that number. So here we go, and we're going to have to get into a tuck pretty quick here. Accelerating uphill in fourth from 57 to 58. Reaching 59, touching 60. We're moving. I'm trying to keep my chin up so you guys can see the road and see my speedo. That's kind of scary. Big tractor trailer passing tiny Grom on the interstate, but I'm not supposed to be here in the first place. All right, on flat ground, we are actually hitting 63 miles per hour. So coming up here in a second, we're gonna get on this downhill and we're gonna get to 70 plus miles per hour. All right, here we go. Once we get past that green sign that says Mexico City, we'll be hitting 70. Here it comes. 68, 69. Come on, little Grom. 70. 71. 72. 73. I mean, we're scooting pretty good. Time to peel off of the interstate. I think we've made our point. Man, oh man. Again, Grom, small, but mighty. It's kind of like Planet of the Apes, but like Planet of the Groms. You know, Grom alone, weak, but Groms together, strong. That's part of it too, man. The camaraderie experience that you get when being on a Grom and riding with other Groms or other small displacement motorcycles, it's hard to beat a day doing that because it's full of so many shenanigans, guys just goofing off, guys and gals alike, just out having fun and not taking themselves serious. Having an exciting day on tiny motorcycles. These are the ones you got to watch out for. This is like the most deadly vehicle in the USA here in front of me, ladies and gentlemen. Nissan Altima in white. It doesn't have the full checklist because it does still have wheels on it instead of black steelies. But man, I tell you, I feel like the white Nissan Altima is the one to look out for. Real danger machine. Another thing that we could talk about is price to enter into a Grom. A lot of guys say that dealerships are ripping them off by charging them freight and setup and wah. You have these expectations for how you think the buying process is going to go, and then the dealership doesn't meet those expectations, largely because they don't have to, and making a profit isn't a crime. That's just business. Like, business is getting something over somebody else, like profit. So, for example, the 2025 Honda Grom starts at $35.99. Invoice on something like that is probably, this is no joke, like $33.40. So there's not a lot of room for profit on these small displacement bikes, and everyone says that, oh, that's the dealership's problem from dealership to Honda. Well, it's not, because if you want to buy one, the dealership, again, is allowed to make a profit on the sale of a motorcycle. That's kind of the name of the game, and it's what helps your dealership stay in business for parts and service. So call them a dealership all you want, call it unfair all you want, talk about how you don't feel like it's right all you want. But you know what? Dealerships, Honda, global manufacturers all around the world do not make prices based on how you feel. And truthfully, if you go to Facebook Marketplace and try to buy a used Grom, they're still asking like MSRP and sometimes more than some dealerships, which is so backwards because those are probably the same guys who went in trying to negotiate on the price of the Grom and saying that it was unethical that the dealership was trying to make some extra money on the sale of a motorcycle. But to that same tune, it is also worth noting that it just shows that the used market for the Grom is pretty solid. These bikes are great at holding their value. I don't know that I would have an issue getting at least 3,000 out of this one. It's a 2022 with 4,000 miles on it. I think I could pull $3,000 out of this bike all day. But I don't think that they're ever going to dip below a certain value in the market for at least the next foreseeable 5 years. And if you think about it in terms of displacement, you know, it kind of makes sense. The only logical next step up from this bike is like an MT-03, a Duke 390, a Z500, bikes that all in the used market start creeping into the 4,000 to 5,000 territory, and the 5,000 to 7,000 territory new. So the Grom is kind of like the bottom of the market, holding everything else up and giving the other motorcycles out there a starting point. Because if I can buy a Grom for 3,000, well then your MT-03 or Z400, Z500 is probably never going to be worth less than my Grom unless it's just absolutely clapped out and in trash condition. Which the used market's always different. Every used bike is different. But all things, you know, holding similarly, you really won't lose a lot if you purchase a Honda Grom unless you're just looking for a quick sale and want to get rid of it extra quick to liquidate some cash. Here's something to consider. If you're planning on carrying a passenger on a Honda Grom, it can be done, but it is not comfortable. And yes, it does have passenger pegs. They are there. If you're in a pinch, sure, absolutely go for it. Otherwise, I'd say look at something different if, you know, passenger comfort is something that you're worried about. Because passenger comfort is crazy low on the list of priorities for this motorcycle. I'm not so sure this motorcycle even has priorities, or if it just wants to be. And I think that's the beauty in the Grom. And I think I'm going to stop talking now and flip it to myself for the final verdict on who and who should not be buying one of these. So we will see you there. And now for some answers. So the real question whenever we're determining on whether you should or shouldn't buy this bike is, who is the bike for? If you're a new rider and you're looking for something cost-effective that won't break the bank, the Grom is an excellent choice. And with its low power output and lightweight design, it means that you can focus on learning how to ride a motorcycle without feeling super overwhelmed. But don't be fooled into thinking this is a motorcycle just for beginners. The Grom has a very loyal following of experienced riders, new riders, intermediate riders alike. And most of us are just using it as a canvas for customization, a commuter, or just something that's practical, lightweight, and fun to rip around town on. So as long as you live in a semi-urban area where you're not going to be going down a bunch of highway and side roads, and you want a motorcycle that's pure fun, the Honda Grom really is the king of its class. So for those reasons, you could for sure call this a good buy. But as always, we've got to play devil's advocate. So you have to just keep in mind that if you're looking for a bike that can handle highway speeds and pack a passenger and a bunch of cargo, something with a bit more gusto and muscle for long distance traveling, the Grom probably isn't the best fit. Its small size and limited power make it ideal for city streets, but way less so for open roads. And while the Grom is a fantastic starter bike, it should be noted that since it's not a full-size machine with gobs of power, it's not going to give you the disciplines that come along with riding a much larger, more capable machine. Its carefree nature and ease of use can make it far less demanding and taxing on you, which again can take away from your preparedness that come with the challenges of riding something larger. So one thing to keep in mind is that if you're serious about developing advanced riding skills, the Grom may not be for you, largely due to the fact that you're probably just going to outgrow it pretty quickly. So if any of that applies to you, you should probably stay away from the Grom and say goodbye. All right, I feel like we did pretty good with that. Let's go ahead and flip it to me with the outro. Hey, thank you for making it to the end of this review. I hope you enjoy that content. If you did, make sure you leave a like on it, and don't forget to subscribe for more content in the future. We've got a couple videos coming up that I'm planning on making eventually. One of those videos will be a short-term review of my thoughts so far on the Ruroc EOS. And in another video in the future, we'll be talking about the new CF Moto models that have been announced for the 2025 model year. So make sure you stay tuned for those if you're curious and want to learn a little bit more about those models. Once more, the affiliate links are in the description for my chest piece that I was wearing, this t-shirt, these gloves, and this helmet on my head, and the one in the video that I was wearing. If you do want to support the channel, I am an affiliate for everything that you see in the description, so I might be financially compensated. And lastly, if you want to see who's under this helmet, you want to finally see my face, which maybe you don't, that's cool too. But if you do, all we gotta do is get the 20K subs, baby. It ain't that complex, it's pretty simple. Help me out and help out your curiosity. It's gonna go ahead and wrap it up. Again, thanks for watching. Have a wonderful week. Please, ride safe.